Okay, I got cut off in the last video, but we're picking up right from where I was before. Um, so on the top we had 4 times d times k squared, and we're dividing that by everything that's left on the denominator up here, which is just m to the 4th. So this whole thing right here, that is my final answer for the simplification of this problem. But you can see that they wrote everything out. I don't like writing anything out. I just like simplifying. All right, let's look at some check your progress problems for example 4. This first one we're multiplying, so pause the video. When you have your answer, go on to the next slide. Okay, the answer for part A is choice B, simplifies to just y over 2x squared. And in part B, we're going to do a division problem where we have to simplify. So when you have your answer, go on to the next slide. And the answer this time is choice D. You simplify all this, make sure you flip the second fraction over, change division to a multiplication sign. You'll be left with a times b squared x over 8. All right, example 5. We have another multiplication problem, but this one is a little bit more complicated because we're going to need to factor the term in the numerator here and the term in the denominator here. So when I see 1 minus k squared, this is a difference of squares. 1 is a perfect square, k squared is a perfect square. So it's 1 minus k, 1 plus k, what we have right here. And k squared minus 4k plus 3, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to 3 and add to negative 4. Those would be negative 3 and negative 1. So we write them out as the factors, and then we're going to look at all this and see if anything cancels. So I can see k minus 3, got one of those on each one. I've got a k plus 1 and a k plus 1, or 1 plus k, doesn't really matter. Addition, doesn't matter the order it's in. Those things cancel. I've got a 1 minus k and a k minus 1. And if you think back to a few examples before this, you should be able to remember that if you multiply this by negative 1, that you get this thing. So we're going to rewrite the 1 minus k as negative 1 times k minus 1. And then we have a k minus 1 on the top and a k minus 1 on the bottom, but we're left with negative 1. So negative 1 is our final answer. All right, in part B, we have a division problem. So remember, we're going to flip our second fraction over. We're going to have to factor this thing. We're going to have to factor this one. We've got a couple of these polynomials, quadratics, that we're going to have to factor. So when we flip over the second fraction, we have d squared plus 3d plus 2 on top. So we're going to look for two numbers that multiply to 2 and add to 3. And those are 2 and 1. 2 times 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3. So this is d plus 2 and d plus 1. Over here, when we factor this guy, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 2 and add to positive 1. So we have either positive 2 and negative 1 or negative 2 and positive 1. Our choices that we're going to end up picking are positive 2 and negative 1. 2 minus 1 gives you 1, and 2 times negative 1 gives you the negative 2. So we've written all the stuff out with the factors. We're going to look for stuff that simplifies and cancel them out. You have, oh, also, I forgot this. 2d plus 6, you can factor a 2 out of each of these. So this is 2 times d plus 3. 2 times d gives you 2d, 2 times 3 gives you 6. So there's a d plus 3 on the top and bottom, cancel them out. There's a d plus 2 on the top and bottom, cancel them out. There's a d plus 1 and a d minus 1. Can't do anything with those, just leave them alone. This right here is your final answer. All right, check your progress problem. Part A, we're going to be multiplying. Make sure you factor this top piece and make sure you factor this bottom piece and then see what you can simplify and cancel out. When you have your answer, go on to the next slide. Your answer this time is C. All of this simplifies down to just the number 1. This right here is probably the fanciest way you've ever seen the number 1 written. Part B, we have a division problem. Make sure you flip the second term over, change division to a multiplication. Make sure you factor this term, and factor this term. When you have your answer, go on to the next slide. Okay, our answer this time is choice A. 3 times d plus 4 over d plus 2. Okay, last example, a complex fraction. Here's the other term that they said was a new vocabulary term. A complex fraction means a fraction divided by another fraction. It's like a fraction within a fraction. It's inception with fractions. It's fractionception. It's not as hard as it looks, because it looks pretty difficult probably the first time you see these kind of things. So what we're going to do is write this out as the numerator divided by the denominator. The numerator divided by the denominator. And when you do it like that, it's easy to see you flip the second term over and change division to a multiplication sign. Then we're going to see if we have any common terms that we can factor out. We're going to look and see if we have any factoring that we can do. Then we're going to simplify stuff. They went ahead and wrote everything out. Let me jump backwards one slide. All right, so right here when we're sitting at this step, they've got a y and a 3 and a y and an x. So these don't have anything in common. 2 and 3, you can't factor any number out of that. You can't do anything with that. You can't do anything with x squared. You can't do anything with x cubed. There's got to be something we can do here. What I hope you notice is that 9 is a perfect square and 4 is a perfect square. So this is a difference of squares. This thing is going to factor this right here into 3x plus 2y times 3x minus 2y. And when we factor it, you should see that, let me change colors again, that this term right here and this term right here are pretty similar to each other. It's just the order of them is flipped again. So remember, this is going to be our -1 thing. So on the next slide, when I advance to the next slide, they're going to have written out the factorization for this already, and they're going to immediately jump into canceling. But remember, when this and this cancel, you're going to be left with -1. So here they cancel and you're left with -1. The x squared over the x cubed, you can cancel 2 of them out, so you're left with 1 on the bottom, and you're left with this 3x plus 2y on the bottom. So our answer, this negative sign, don't forget that, -1 over x times 3x plus 2y, and that's your final answer. All right, I'll check your progress problem and then we'll be done. Remember, you need to write this out as the numerator divided by the denominator. Flip the denominator over and change the division to a multiplication sign. Factor stuff out, look for what you can simplify, and then cancel anything you can simplify, and then pick your answer. So when you have your answer, go on to the next slide and we'll check it out. All right, our answer is C, 1 over a squared times a minus 3b. That brings us to the end of Unit 2, Lesson 8. Hopefully you feel a little bit more comfortable with multiplying and dividing rational expressions and you're ready to go practice some stuff out on your own.